And then while I was sitting very quietly, the Minister of Finance decides to complain about high interest rates. And obviously, that is the beginning of a new controversy. So since I know that he has been complaining, and the minister has been complaining about interest rates, and I've had a lot of complaints about the 5,000 naira notes, and inflation, and whether we're spending 40 billion to print the notes, I thought it might be interesting to be just a little bit of my normal self. And deviate from the subject matter. Actually, I can bring it into the subject matter because it's about transformation. You know, the thing with transformation is that anything can enter it. And in these days and times, any paper that has transformation in its title cannot be controversial. So, I'll say a few things. And I think that this is something that's come out in recent times. A lot of the time, people forget what the central bank is supposed to do. And maybe we don't say it enough. What is our mandate? The central bank is not responsible for providing electricity or power or infrastructure. We help. And we'll do everything we can to support, to unlock finance to those areas, from the banking system, or from pension funds, or from the capital markets, as part of our role in establishing financial system stability and contributing to development. The primary mandate of the central bank is to create a stable environment that is conducive to growth. And sometimes, in our attempt to create that stable environment, we have to take decisions that are difficult. And everybody that has spoken and everybody that will speak, and could hear ADB talking about high rates of interest to agriculture, we'll be very happy to get more money from ADB at 1% on lend to agriculture. That'd be great. And we in the central bank are not happy at the very high rates of interest. But what are the options? Given the liquidity conditions, given the historical fiscal stance, yes, it is changing, but we're coming from years and years of very loose fiscal spending. Given the global conditions and the risks to commodity prices, given what we went through in 2008, 2009, when oil price crashed from over $140 to under $40 and almost wiped out our banking system, can we really afford to continue risking high rates of inflation, risking a very weak currency, risking a continuous drain on our reserves at a time when the global conditions are uncertain? What have we gained with the high rates of interest? We started this year after fuel subsidy removal with forecasts of inflation likely to hit almost 15% in this quarter. We've been able to keep inflation at around 12%. Reserves have crossed $40 billion for the first time in several years. The exchange rate has been stable in the face of a global crisis. That stability is what is required to maintain confidence in the market. That stability is what lays the foundation for growth. And it buys us time. Monetary policy cannot be the answer to the economic problems, and the Minister of Finance knows this, and that's why he's working, and that's why you have a coordinating minister for the economy. Monetary policy has to be complemented by tight fiscal policies and by significant progress on the structural side. Banks want to lend to small and medium enterprises. And yes, interest rates are high. But you don't lend to an SME if the SME does not have electricity, if there is no infrastructure, if there is no security, if the transportation conditions are not good, if there is no access to market. ADB wants banks to lend to agriculture. You want to lend to a tomato farmer? Lend to a tomato farmer where 40–50% of his output will perish between the farm and the market? No storage, no cold rooms? The question of access to credit and credit to GDP has to be treated, and we have to continue treating this question holistically. The banks are a major part of the economy, but they are not the solution. Government will have to continue doing its bit. We have to continue working. We have to improve power, improve infrastructure, improve the policy environment, reduce the bureaucracy, protect the creditors, again, continue with the good work that has started in finance in reducing overheads and recurrent expenditure, and then we'll get interest rates down. So, in terms of where rates are, I keep saying it's important to remember that what is the primary mandate of the central bank? We will continue to support development, we're going to support growth, but we will only do this to the extent that it does not undermine the core mandate that we have, which is stability. Stability in consumer prices, stability in exchange rates, and a general macroeconomic stability in the key indicators. Now, we do have subsidiary roles, and I think we've had opportunities to have talked about our role in development. The ADB knows the work we've done with the Ministry of Agriculture, trying to promote bank lending to agriculture and NERSO. We have provided funding for lending in 2010. Some of that funding went into the power sector, for example, and I don't know how many of you know that out of the Power and Aviation Intervention Fund of the Central Bank, 10 power plants benefited, borrowing money at 7% for 15 years, and they've added about 400 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. We lent to about 4,000 SMEs, again at single-digit interest rates through the banks, 7%, and we saved about 20,000 jobs, okay, in retained and created jobs. These SMEs have come to testify themselves on these results. We did work on the airlines. We helped a few. We can't save all of them. There are a few that still have problems, but we helped a number of airlines restructure their bank loans and also get long-term funding at very low rates of interest. And of course, we've got CACS, the Commercial Agriculture Credit Scheme, which at the last count has financed rice processing plants that produce the equivalent of 10% of the rice import bill of the country. So there are concrete achievements on that side. And a third area is that we have responsibility for managing the payment system. We've talked about cashless Lagos. When we started, there was a lot of controversy. Nobody wanted it. Now, we're doing grocery restructuring. People are saying this undermines cashless Lagos. Those who were attacking cashless Lagos are now the defenders of cashless Lagos. And in defending cashless Lagos, they're calling up arguments that I don't understand. If you're moving to a cash-light environment, you should ask yourself, what was the logic of that step? And the logic was we wanted to reduce the cost of delivering service to you, the consumer, and the cost of performing our key mandates as central bank. We started a project over 2 years ago aimed at reducing overheads in the Nigerian banking industry by at least 30% in a 3-year period.